Desperate Democrats, unable to count on their failed policies and unpopular ideas to propel them to victory in November, have fallen back on one of only two strategies that have consistently proven over the years to work successfully on their largely ignorant voter base. It isn't racism this time, although that is an absolute tactic used by the left when they're losing. No, this time they're going back to their old faithful, flat out lying. This is JP with Political Pop Culture, and this is my take. In an effort to stem the bleeding that Democrats are seeing in recent polling data, they are doing everything they can think of to distract voters and deflect their attention away from things like the economy, inflation, and violent crime. All of those issues are incredibly important to voters, but those are issues that Democrats are incredibly vulnerable on. What can the Democrats do? Well, lie, of course. With just weeks until the midterm elections, Joe Biden and Democrats that are fighting for survival in an election shaping up to be a bloodbath for them, they're dusting off a tried and true tactic, demonizing Republicans by claiming that Republicans are going to do away with entitlements that voters, especially older, more reliable voters, count on to survive. According to the New York Times, quote, President Biden warned on Tuesday that Republicans posed a threat to Social Security and Medicare, amplifying an effort by Democrats to make the fate of America's social safety net programs a central campaign issue ahead of November's midterm elections. But here's the problem. Other than vague accusations, other than scary-sounding talking points, what proof do Democrats have that Republicans do indeed want to do away with Medicare and Social Security? None. Of course, none. Now, facts being against him has never stopped Joe Biden from talking smack about his political opponents, and the lack of any credible evidence that Republicans are in fact in favor of dismantling Social Security and Medicare didn't stop him this time either. In a speech from the Rose Garden, President Biden held up a copy of a plan put forward by Florida Senator Rick Scott, which the president said would move to, quote, sunset the programs, phasing them out of existence. I tell you what though, don't phase the like button out of existence. Seriously, give that like button a click and then hit subscribe and click on the notification bell too. That way, you will be the first to know anytime we upload new content just like this. You're also going to be helping out the channel by telling the algorithm to show this video to other people who might be interested. Every little bit really does help, so thank you. In his speech, President Biden said, 158 House Republicans have already signed a Republican budget that will cut Medicare and Social Security. I know you think I'm probably exaggerating that, but here's a pamphlet. 12-point plan to rescue America by Senator Scott of Florida, okay? The problem for the president and for Democrats is that he is mischaracterizing, that's a fancy word for lying, what the legislation does. And when asked directly whether his plan could potentially sunset programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, Senator Scott dismissed the notion as Democratic talking points. He also said his proposal was intended to focus attention on how to deal with potential funding shortfalls in the future. No one that I know of wants to sunset Medicare or Social Security. But what we're doing is we don't even talk about it. Medicare goes bankrupt in 4 years. Social Security goes bankrupt in 12 years, Senator Scott said. I think we ought to figure out how we preserve these programs. Every program that we care about, we ought to stop and take time to preserve those programs. On yesterday's My Take, I discussed the tightening Senate race in Washington between incumbent Patty Murray and Republican challenger Tiffany Smiley. Now, Patty Murray, in what appears to be a move of pure desperation, has parroted Biden's claims about Republicans, saying, quote, Republicans plan to end Social Security and Medicare if they take back the Senate. The Washington Post, however, did a fact check on Murray's claim and gave it 4 Pinocchios. That's its highest rating for somebody giving a bald-faced lie. The Post also noted that in 2011, then Vice President Biden claimed that the House Republicans supported the plan for, quote, eliminating Medicare in the next 10 years. They also noted in the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden said President Donald Trump had a, quote, plan to strip Social Security benefits and make the program disappear in 3 years. This is a quote from the Washington Post. Now comes the latest iteration of this campaign attack, but it is just as empty as the previous ones. Folks, that is the uber-liberal Washington Post calling out both Patty Murray and President Biden for being absolutely full of beep, beep. Oh, and by the way, the Washington Post also noted that Rick Scott has denied wanting to end Social Security and Medicare. When you can't even get the hyper-partisan Washington Post to back up your claims, you know they are total BS. I've been telling you, it's just going to get more and more interesting as we get closer to the midterms. Now, literally every day, I am seeing more and more evidence pointing to the fact that November is likely to be a bloodbath for Democrats, and the Republican red wave is going to wash right over them. Stay tuned, folks, because we still have 6 weeks to go. That's my take. What's your take? You can let me know your take in the comments below. You can also let me know your take by joining the cult at PolPopCult on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Rumble, and Truth Social. Thank you for listening.